A cone has a volume of 98 cubic centimeters. The radius of the cone is 5.13 centimeters. Part says work out an estimate for the height of the cone, and we are given the volume of cone formula, which is 1/3 pi r squared h. This question falls under the topic of estimation. Okay, so there are two important things to know. One is that you need to work out an estimate. So notice that the two things that were given, volume and cone, they're both not very friendly numbers, 98 and 5.13. So if we use these two numbers in our calculation without a calculator, because this is paper one, you can only imagine how hard that can be, right? Or how time-taking that can be. So let's estimate these two numbers. So the number 98 gets rounded to 100. That's the closest one significant digit number near 98. And 5.13, the closest number that is one significant digits to 5.13 is 5. So we round down 5.13 to 5. And you can think of, you can see that these two numbers, 100 and 5, they're pretty easy to work with without a calculator. All right, the other important thing I wanted to mention was the height. So in this question, we are supposed to work out the height, which means that we need to somehow rearrange this formula for h and then plug in the values. By the way, this is v and this is r. So we know the v and r in this formula. We know the volume, we know the radius. What we don't know is the height. Okay, so in order to find out the height, let's first rearrange the formula. So the formula is v equals to 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay, so one thing to note is that the 3 is in the denominator, and we want to get rid of it. There's a pi that we want to get rid of, which is in the numerator, and r squared is also in the numerator. So we want to get rid of 3 pi and r squared. That will leave us with h by itself. Okay, so let's get rid of 3 first. To get rid of 3, we need to times both sides by 3, because 3 is being divided, so we need to do the opposite operation. So times by 3. Now, because we want to save some time, let's get rid of pi and r squared in the same step. Because pi and r squared are being multiplied with h, to get rid of them, we need to divide by pi and r squared. So to get rid of pi, we need to divide both sides of pi. We could say that we could just divide here, right? So 3 over pi. And then that would be 3 over pi on the other side as well. So 3 over pi just means that you're timesing by 3 and you're dividing by pi. So you're timesing both sides by 3 and dividing both sides by pi. And the same way, to get rid of r squared, you need to divide both sides by r squared. So let's put an r squared here and here. Okay, so that way we can cancel out the 3's. So 3 in the denominator cancels a 3 in the numerator. Pi in the numerator cancels a pi in the denominator, and r squared cancels r squared. You can see on the right side, we're left with 1 times h, which is h. So the formula becomes h equals to 3 times v, which is 3v, over pi r squared. Okay, so to work out height, let's plug in the volume, the value of volume, which is 100, and radius, which is 5. So the values are 3, so it's going to be h equals to 3 times 100 over pi times 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, so 300 divided by 25 pi, so that's 300 divided by 25 pi. And 25 can go into 300. If we divide top and bottom by 25, we're going to be left with 1 on the bottom, right? And 300 divided by 25 is just 12. So it's going to be 12 over pi. You could have divided 325 by 5 first. If you can't think of what number to multiply with 25 to get 300. So divide both by top and bottom by 5, and then divide them again by 5. Okay, so that's 15A. Now for 15B, it says, John uses a calculator to work out the height of the cone to 2 decimal places. So part B says, will your estimate be more than John's answer or less than John's answer? Give reasons for your answer. Okay, so is our estimate an overestimate or an underestimate? So we know that the height was 3v over pi r squared, right? And we overestimated the volume, right? So this was an overestimate. And the radius was an underestimate. And the formula I'm using is right here. Okay, so this is going to be an overestimate. So this is a higher number. This is the numerator is greater, right? So we have a bigger numerator because you rounded v. So bigger numerator over. So you rounded down r. Okay, so your radius is going to be smaller than John's radius, right? So on the bottom, you have an underestimate, or you have a smaller denominator. Okay, so if your numerator is larger than John's numerator, and if your denominator is smaller than John's denominator, your overall answer is going to be an overestimate, or it's going to be so therefore John's answer, our answer will be more than John's answer. So our answer is more than John's answer. So just hypothetically, let's say if John has, the numerator for John is 10 and their denominator is 5, right? And your numerator is larger, which is 12, and your denominator is smaller, which is 4, right? So this is John's, this is yours, right? So this is yours. Okay, so John will get 2 and you will get 3. So you have a larger overall answer.